Hey, welcome to Nerdicky. For nerds by nerds. I'm Ryan.
Dave.
Ted.
Nate.
And today we're going to be doing Game Master tips for world building. Specifically, we're going to talk about our Griffin Gaff campaign, the Pantheon, as we're developing it. A lot of this stuff is going to happen on camera right now.
Right.
So without further ado...
You know what? Before we even get started, I would like to do one thing real quick.
Yep.
I want to thank everybody who's been commenting and adding to the discussion for the world building stuff. We've got 2 videos up so far, High Concepts 1 and 2. And
they keep giving us more and more to add to the mix.
yeah, there's so many great ideas that we actually have to do another video on that.
Right. Yeah.
And we're going to get to it.
The response to the response to the response. Kind of deal.
Yeah, so all you guys that have been weighing in, keep doing it, because we're going to go back to that. And we're going to pull out your ideas, and we're going to discuss them and talk about them. And also discuss how, some ideas they given me about things that we've already discussed. So it's like it's creating this vicious cycle of never-ending goodness, I guess.
So a not so vicious cycle.
And get out of our heads.
Yeah, and get out of our heads.
It's like an inspiration.
Get out of our heads, David Sims.
It's an inspiration cycle. Yeah. So yeah, it's cool. So, Deities.
What do we got? So far, we don't have a lot, but we have Gallus. Our deity of, or how are we saying it? Gallus, Galas?
Galas.
Not like that.
No,
It's like you're
more
yelling.
like High Elven, so
It's like you're yelling for cons.
Galas.
It's a nature deity.
Yeah.
But it's nature, time, and
life.
The magazine subscription.
Yeah,
Can we get a Grey Poupon bottle with that name on it?
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like it
nature,
should be
lifetime, and nature.
Galas.
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 Yeah.
Yeah,
Excuse me, sir. Do you have some Galas?
So Nate, this is your creation. So what do you picture? Galas being other than just there's the domains.
Crickets.
Crickets.
We do have crickets now.
Well,
Yeah.
you've got this holy symbol where you've got an acorn in the
Oh,
center.
well, hopefully it'll show up. This is my rough draft of my holy symbol. It's basically an acorn.
Let's see. Here, we can make it show up. We
Okay.
can make this happen.
We have the technology.
Right. Hopefully not too close. Or...
Yeah, it'll get blurry if you hold it too close. Just there you go.
all right.
There you go.
Looking.
So
Oh,
it's
he's looking
it's
at
my
it,
first sketch of the holy symbol.
So
And
you've got,
if you can see, it's a whole.
All right, enough of that.
It's got the 4 trees of the season, going from spring to you have spring, summer, fall, and also winter. You have the acorn in the middle that's sprouting the 4. So you have that kind of like revolution of the seasons, and also you're going from the start of life towards the end and the cycles that are in it. And then also it has a giant. It's in the shape of a giant eye, with the inner part of
acorn
the
being
acorn
the
and the surrounding roots.
Almost being like
this
the
eye.
iris and the pupil. So
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So and that's because it's
Ooh,
kind of
actually-
like it's a deity of
Can I see your sketch again?
sure.
Yeah.
It's a deity of life and the nature of like those all bound together, and then it's also the idea of the procession of that time and being able to see basically when you have enough knowledge and a guy that's all into life and nature would of that natural cycle, you can kind of start predicting what's going to happen and occur. So it's not necessarily like future. It's not like fortune telling, but it's kind of like, well, I can kind of see farther down the line than most people, and being a godlike being, that's kind of he's got that extra ability of that. So that's why time is wrapped in
So
there.
would you consider Galas as more of a neutral deity, kind of a little standoffish, letting the cycles pass?
He's got a little bit of the
watch.
Watcher archetype in him, so he's got a little bit of that. Yeah, kind of standoffish.
The ball guy from Marvel?
I don't know. Perhaps.
But who watches the Watcher?
Yeah,
No,
who watches the
The
Watcher?
the Watchers from
Watchmen.
from Highlander. They watch the people kill themselves. Or cut
Yeah,
their heads off.
so-
Kind of
Kill each other.
So he's got that a little bit of that component to him, being far seeing, but that's what I've got so far on him.
okay.
I didn't do a huge write up on him yet, which is kind of difficult. I guess it's beneficial because I'm a cleric in your game
Right.
as him, but my cleric isn't
Cleric.
is not a
Yeah.
very good cleric.
He's not that
He's
guy.
He's not
kinda-
that kind of cleric.
He's kind of
He's an
reluctant.
evil cleric?
No, he's a good cleric. He's lawful good, but he's kind of reluctancy to take on this mantle that this deity wants him to.
He's one of those that's become a cleric, not by choice. It's like,
Yeah, we'll rely
hey, you. You're
This
guy.
is totally not my bag. And
Yeah, he's not rejecting him, but he's saying, basically like, there's got to be people that are better for you than me.
Well,
Come
I
on
mean,
now.
well,
And that's one of his major character flaws, is that he doesn't think he's worthy of his god's attention.
But apparently, with the whole seeing into the future, Glass thinks, sees something down
so
the road.
sees
So
something down the road. So
Yeah.
he's decided to invest his time and energy in this guy. So
It's kind of funny because, right, with your character, this is a hippie god. And your
Yes.
character is the capitalist kind of
yeah, he's from a
person.
merchant noble
Yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah.
He's
And he's like, no, really, no, I don't touch that stuff, and I don't smoke that.
and now this god happens to be the god of our house as well. But every noble house has got to have
Somebody.
has got to have some kind of patron deity, and it's kind of like more tradition with them. So it's not. So it's kind of surprising that.
So they're just kind of like lip service.
Well, the god's surprised. I mean, the character is surprised that he's been chosen out of his family, and he feels he's kind of undeserving in his family. So basically, Galas is definitely a plan ahead. I'm picking certain agents to act as my will throughout the world.
Maybe
so.
trying to bring his family back to the fold.
Yeah, that could be as well. So they're not anti or against him.
They're like Creasters. They go to church on Easter and Christmas. Pretty much that's
Oh
it.
yeah, so that could be a good thing. They still help out the church whenever they can, and it's it's a big tradition with them. But they only show up. twice a
Or
year.
or maybe they do all the right things for the church for the wrong reasons. And anyone who
Well, I mean,
participates
but
in
also,
church has
too,
seen this.
you want to? If you finish up your point,
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
something.
Well, if you go to any church, there's always those people that kind of just show up and they seem like they go to church because that's what society expects of them.
Yeah.
Not so much that they feel a calling.
Social pressures.
Yeah, where or they're only going on the certain days. They're only making donations because that's what you're supposed to do. As where in this case maybe Galas is calling back to them, going, no, there's it's deeper than that. You gotta open your heart and welcome me into it, and you have to experience the faith.
And whatever he sees in my future, he's decided to make my character his agent. So
So the thing I was saying is, like, I'm gonna say is that, like, a lot of polytheistic cultures, they just give like service to like one deity during their time. Like, so like the Galas would probably, the solstices would come up, and that's when they do their reverence to them. But like they'd probably revere like a whole pantheon, whether that's specifically Elvish or whatever. So like the family or the community could be not that invested in that one particular god, but it's one god and a host of deities that they give their reverence
yeah, I
to.
see what you mean.
So
I mean, I don't want to take over high elves in our Gryffindor campaign, but I was thinking more that each kind of house would have their major prominent one. And for this merchant house, this is this major prominent one. It's not just like Gilda or some of the other ones that we talked about, but so for that's their selection, even though it's kind of like, well,
And it's kind of a weird one for them too.
yes, well, I mean, they weren't always. It's kind of like they weren't always merchants, but it's kind of like a traditional thing. So they have the other
with
because
elves,
it's polytheistic with the elves.
with elves having a lifespan of centuries, it's only within this generation or within the last generation that your house has actually become noble. So therefore, going back probably thousands of years, this house is worshipped, Galas.
Yeah.
So you can't undo that with a simple.
If you thought about it in human terms, it's like we're up-jumped nobles. we're just merchants that got enough money that we're now in the elite class.
Right.
So I'm like the first generation of nobles, real nobles in that family, because our parents were considered it. So that's kind of, they shift it from.
I kind of picture like his ancestors selling scented oils and
well, they could have been druids, so like being really good with handling pack animals and stuff like that. Like because merchants need to move stuff. So
gotta move it.
That's right.
So over the time frame of this ancient house, this is where they've come from.
And they're not trying to sell scented oils and incense anymore.
No, they're moving out. They're branching
They're
off.
like the
no more of that
Jeffersons,
hippie
moving
stuff.
on up.
No more patchouli or sandalwood.
Although there's lots of open market in the longleaf
Oh, this is true. Yes.
Yeah. So that could still be a thing they hold on to. They could start dealing narcotics.
Yeah, they're hanging out the playground.
Dude, we can basically do like Griffin Gaff meets The Wire. Yeah, yeah.
Not having a recycled event of Dave's mage and his charm person.
Prostitution ring.
Yeah, yeah, you know it happens.
It's pretty awful, but
But back to deities.
Back to deities.
So that's what I've got on Gloss.
So, do we want to go to your guy or your list?
So what? Quinthal, you want to do that one?
All right. So Quinthal
is
the mistress of magic and mysteries. Let me tell you why we have this god to begin with. Because Ted decided to make a cleric.
That's really the players, stupid players make you do work.
So he decided to make a cleric, and you wanted to do something kind of interesting, and I think you really just made kind of wanted to abuse the initiative magic feat with a human. And then you're like, well, how can I make this work with my cleric? And then you're like, oh my god, I can have all the proficiencies in all the languages. And so...
That's 7 proficiencies, 6 languages, 5 cantrips, and a plethora of first-level spells. I was just like, all right, I like the Magic Initiate. I thought it was really neat. And to be able to have a cleric who's got his primary attack as a wizard cantrip, I thought was pretty neat. But I mean, I like clerics, and typically when I do clerics, I've gone more into the, he's a stand-up, he's going to get into the mix of stuff.
The old, I'm the healing battery.
I'm the healing battery.
Medic
can get into melee. Well, this guy, as I said in past stuff, strength and dex are his dump stats. He's got a 10 strength and an 8 dex.
He should not even be wearing armor.
Well, you know what I almost imagine in my head, because he has all these skills, I almost feel like he's going to be older, like say in his 40s, like 45, something like that, old for an adventurer, and like, so he's just an old guy that got, was basically in a monastery, like studying all this time, and then was like prodded into actually going out into the field.
I actually see him, he's still rather young, but he's spent a lot of time just studying books.
Yeah.
So he's never...
Well, he was a wizard's apprentice.
Right, and that's his background as sage. He was a wizard's apprentice. He didn't really feel the calling to just sit there studying books. He has a longing to go explore and to really seek knowledge that is hidden. His actual trinket is an undecipherable treasure map. So it's like I've got to find out what this is, and sitting there staring at books wasn't getting him the answers that he wants. So he actually left, and he actually meditated at a clearing, and Quinthel kind of said, well, this is the direction I see you going. So similar to the character that we all role played with, Giles, who was the book librarian who couldn't stand adventuring. This guy's got the opposite. He's got that lust for the road. He doesn't want to get trapped in towns and taverns. He needs to go...
So much so, he left before he was actually equipped to deal with the hazards of the road.
Absolutely. And that's when, Quinthel said...
That's when Quinthel... I'll take over this part, because, you're the player. I'm the GM. That's when Quinthel facepalmed, like, oh my god, he's so going to die. What am I going to do? He wants to unravel mysteries. He knows a little bit of magic. That's kind of what I do. And then, you're a cleric.
So, get my training, get my gear, and, ready to set off. Week away from that first session of being able to see what
Well, I don't see your character having any training as far as being a cleric.
Well, the magic beam of light training.
Yeah, divine inspiration.
Just like, here, just fill up the memory banks with what I need to know, and off we go.
Well, maybe his time of prayer is actually being in study. Like it's kind of.
I mean, he's got books, and I mean, he's gonna always be looking to. Okay, well, have I read that yet? Can I borrow that? Can I use that?
I see this DD actually having some things in common with Galas, to be honest with you. and probably like Galas has the long view, and Pathel is going to be that kind of deity that is always like pulling the strings and orchestrating things, and it's like the chess master that makes a move that makes everyone else scratch their head.
Like,
because
why on earth would you do that?
Right, because what they didn't understand was she's planned out the move for 25. That move is going to be relevant after she makes move number 24. So the other end of mysteries is there's twofold, right? Mysteries, you're either solving them, unraveling them, or you're creating them. So there's that duality. So she's definitely not a good god, but she's not an evil god either.
Chaotic neutral.
I wouldn't go chaotic neutral.
Well,
but,
it's random. Well, seemingly random.
It's not random. She knows what she's doing. Maybe lawful neutral or neutral.
I would think lawful neutral because
there's an order.
There has to be an order to that much planning.
Right.
Maybe she's also could be a patron of like strategists as well. So as we're figuring this stuff out as we go, it's like an enigma deity, in Eberron, like the Traveler is kind of, I see, like the Traveler isn't really good or evil, but it's like no one really knows, and it also reminds me of our deity. Hey, this was before the freaking books were written. He whose name is not spoken.
Whose name is not spoken. Yeah, before Harry Potter, actually. And for short, we would just call him Bob because we figured his name was the name of creation and destruction, but it was a palindrome, so you didn't really know.
Yeah, so if it was ever said again.
It was Bob. So yeah, if it was ever said again, the world could get completely wiped out, and for short, we called him Bob because it's a lot.
Yeah, so a lot of the aspects from that deity I see kind of like in this deity.
Charted on.
So do you have a concept for a holy symbol?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Well, I'll have to.
I haven't thought of that yet.
Have to think on that one.
I'll have to think about it. So this is a good example for campaign building and world building of a player influencing what kind of deity is going on and what.
Yeah, basically two of our most fleshed out deities right now.
Are the clerics? Yeah, as the clerics come around, then you have to create.
I mean that's kind of I tend to always have some kind of patron deity or god that I pay lip service to, regardless of whatever character I play, just because it adds more flavor to the character and to the world. Just get a sampling of a regular population and say, in our one deity world, how many of you actually, worship? Well, then in a world where the gods make themselves present to some extent, how many people?
Well, wait a minute. Some extent, in 5th edition now, they may show to freak up.
Yeah.
Well,
well, I mean,
they're
that's
very
the thing.
much
Like
the Greek-Roman kind of.
Greco-Roman sort of thing. And actually, like I have another setting that I'm tinkering around with, but I won't be running 5th edition for probably a good long time because we have enough games going on. But like, I have a game where like it's very much based off of a Greco-Roman mythos, and I want to make inspiration a much bigger part of it, have other uses for it, and this and that, and give it out just a lot more frequently. But yeah, like in a Dungeons and Dragons world, it's almost absurd to have a character that's atheist because deities show up and they directly affect things and there's powers of magic and stuff like that. So you may be like antagonistic towards a god, like that god's an a-hole, but you can't deny his existence or its existence.
The term for that is, I don't know, but several of our fans have actually put it in the comments of our last world building video.
Yeah.
And they actually the one guy actually quoted Riddick on it. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. What was the term? Or is it...
I don't know. I told you it's in the video.
All
it's
right,
in the comments. I have to go look for it.
We get a lot of comments, but thank you. We appreciate them. But there are a lot.
I forget what it was called.
Yeah. So with the gods being present and visible and interactive, I feel for a character it's almost essential to have some kind of religion on their character. So we started off the Griffin Gaff campaign with a basic concept for a town that the two of us kind of worked with, and it kind of grew from there. And now we're building a campaign setting kind of out from it, and building whatever pieces we need as we see fit. So as we've got cleric, we need their deities. As we have more characters and people seeking to have more religion and more flavor, we're going to have to fill those pieces in. So we move on to your list.
Yeah,
here.
so I just kind of there was a few things I had started coming up with. So I had this concept with the tools being a part of the game. I was like, all right, well, what can I do with deities to kind of like give that feel of like there's something divine about it, like using that as a kicking off point. So I came up with these 3 sibling deities that in past editions they had like greater gods and lesser gods. So their parents would be the greater gods, the Zeus of the world, and this and that. But so out of the 3, there's Hest, who was gifted a set of masks that allow her to take on, and she could even be actually androgynous, but it gives her the ability to take on, the appearance of different beings, probably mostly humanoids. There's Kredsfer, who's was given a set of magical pelts that lets him change into various animal forms, maybe a sort of a lycanthrope sort of thing going on. And there's Gollum, who was gifted with a set of tools that lets him manipulate materials to make basically, so you're talking about artifice and golems and constructs and this and that. So I have one, like Hess is kind of concerned with people, Kredsfer is concerned with beast and lycanthropy, and then Gollum constructs, objects.
No, didn't you say that Gollum was going to actually be a golem?
Well, he could have constructed himself to be that, like manipulated things, because he can manipulate materials.
Right.
So, I mean, he's a god, so he could transfer, his essence into it, or like do like a man in the iron mask sort of thing where he builds.
No, because I think it'd be really cool to actually have a quote unquote construct deity.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a god, so it could be literally anything. Like,
so it's like, okay, he honestly can be like, yep. When he appears, he's honestly this 40-foot tall golem, that just is like, all right, here I am.
Yeah.
Deal with me.
Yeah. So, I mean, is one of the parent deities could just, like Zeus opens his head and he makes a daughter out of that. So, like, basically they could have taken the gods intervening in that war could have, like, imbued one of those, like, basically arcane mechs with sentience and, like basically give it the essence of one of their children type of thing. So I mean that's a possibility. And then let's see, I also have Gilda, who's a goddess of community and industry, hence guilds. Then I have this one's kind of fun, Thruck and Thurser. So they're 2 ends of the giant spectrum. You have like the deity of the goodly giants and the evil deity. Or the evil giants, but they're the same being. So they're essentially like an Etten.
Right.
And so they're constantly like struggling with one another, thwarting one another, but they occupy the same body. But like when they get bent to the same purpose, they're damn near unstoppable.
What's the name of those?
Thruck and Thurser.
Thruck.
Thurser. So, and I figure like you could have, so one would probably be chaotic good, the other chaotic neutral, or chaotic evil. But like if you choose to worship them both, you tend towards chaotic neutral because the chaos kind of balances and sways.
So so obviously the Thruck could be a evil war deity, if you wanted to go that way, or we could craft something. I think the biggest piece of the puzzle we would need. Your basic law and justice, your goodly paladin god is gonna be needed. Unless we wanted to have some kind of spin that's not an actual major religion, but that depends upon what the law chaos balance we're gonna have. I mean, especially with
the alignment of our campaign world.
Now the chaos bleed is gonna have some kind of effect. So there should be an increased amount of just chaotic deities.
Yeah.
We talked about the
Not necessarily, because the deities are gonna, the chaos bleed's kind of an accident. So I don't think that really has anything to do with the deities. I mean, it's kind of like it's almost like nuclear waste.
Yeah, that was the
someone has to
unforeseen
figure out how to
circumstance.
fix.
We should figure out, was it all the gods or a specific god who banished the dragons? How did that actually come to pass? Because we said, okay, it was done by the gods. But
If we had, we've got that evil deity, the giants. If we have a deity that kind of made the chaos bleed happen, but he said maybe it's a knowledgeable deity of what they were doing, like maybe I don't know if there's something with dimensions or
Demons.
and whatever the case may be. Maybe it's even a deity from another plane of existence that's kind of like the new guy on the block, and he says, oh well, yeah, this is how we can get rid of these dragons, but it's also going to cause all this chaos and craziness, but I want it to happen, I'm just not going to tell you about it.
Yeah, it doesn't
kind of like
mention
the
that
Loki of the pantheon kind of thing, like that kind of feel. If there was a guy,
the newcomer, the outsider,
the outsider that wins trust, but then gets.
So he convinces them to do something that's going to benefit him by proposing something that's going to benefit them.
Right.
Yes.
and maybe the other guys don't even know they were tricked. Maybe they haven't figured it out yet, or they figure it out later and it's too late.
Well, I mean, maybe he was a lesser being, but because of this bleed happening, it
Maybe
it
he's
amps
from
up
that
his
plane.
power.
Yeah, maybe he's from whatever. Like maybe that the breaking down of the barriers there actually
How about,
assist him in becoming more powerful.
How about combining that concept with some kind of advanced slot?
Well, I don't know. Like in theory, you can do that, but I don't think. I don't like building it off of like the monster mechanics per se. Like and like so this greater Slod comes out of limbo and starts talking to like these god beings, and like who's gonna believe him?
Basically, it's got to be something that feels innocuous when it approaches them. Like, they don't want to, like, you don't, the vampire can't present itself as a vampire for you to be tricked by it. So it's got to be something where it's like very innocent.
Maybe it
coy.
has the ability. It's a big shapeshifter, a changeling, something like that. Like a I don't know.
See, I like when it comes to stuff like that. I don't like to explain it. I don't think you need to explain it. Yeah. It's a powerful being from somewhere else is perfect to me.
Okay.
Because I feel like if you go when you open the Monster Manual and you start picking things out to go, okay, well, what if it's this, and it's like, because I like this monster and it's kind of cool, so let's make it elevated to a deityhood. If I'm going to do that, it's going to be the deity of that monster, instead of just kind of like reskinning a deity from something with the Monster Manual. So I would rather leave it undefined or as something else. I almost feel like it confines it.
Understandable. Makes sense.
Well, I just feel like at a certain point, people are going to be referencing it as a something, or so. I mean, at a certain point, you have to define it. But
if we are talking about a being of chaos, then there doesn't necessarily have to be a definition. It honestly could be whatever it wants to be.
That's why I suggested shape changing or changeling kind of idea.
Yeah, like the lesser being that tricks them, but in order to do that, it has to have a certain kind of panache to it, and a certain kind of style. Yeah. It's got to be able to gain the ear of the gods.
Right.
And when you talk about monstrous things, like I don't see them gaining the ear of the gods.
Maybe it could have done something heroic in the realm or solved a more minor problem than the dragons, but it got that attention and elevation. And it said, "Hey, well,
maybe in its chaotic vision, it had enough, foresight to see, well, if I do this, it's gonna cause this to happen, which will get me, X, Y, Z." Well,
I mean, also too, though, if chaos was always always chaotic. Like sometimes chaos has to be lawful to just not be predictable. You know, sometimes it has to do something that's in accord to be absolutely, like if you're talking chaotic neutral, sometimes you have to take a lawful action to just not always be the guy that does the thing against the grain, because you have to throw people off.
That's right.
Yeah.
What if? Okay, so the common thread in most creation mythologies is the god or the gods come and bring order to the chaos. Like the story pretty much always universally goes that way. Well, what if when they did that, what they didn't realize is they just shunted it all off someplace, and that being shunted off someplace, they create this like embryo of chaos, where all this time's going by, it's growing in on itself and being reborn into this trickster being. So in essence, it's a child of the gods.
Of all of them.
Of all of them.
It's a product of their actions.
Right, and when it comes back, and ultimately this being is going to want vengeance, right? It's going to want, the gods came and destroyed the chaos in essence, and he's the byproduct, and he wants the chaos back.
Well, it's kind of strange though, because he's also there because of them. So if his existence is tortured or in some way, it's kind of like, well, I had a bad childhood, but who cares? I'm however old now and I'm doing okay. That kind of kind of mentality.
I think it could totally be a duplicitous situation where he has that vengeful of, he took away the chaos, but at the same time, as you're saying, it created me, allowing for me to go down this path. So you have that,
and maybe he's doing a balancing factor.
Well,
he's bringing it back to a balance.
You could
just not in a necessarily great fashion.
You could add that insane.
So, he is the youngest god. So
you could have that insane quality where, to fit with the chaos, you really don't know what he's going to do, because he's got these two sides to work with.
And it could be kind of that deal that he came about and like held it together long enough to fool the other gods as to its true nature. Like they themselves may not actually know where it came from and not know that they created it. That this is going to be a problem and a bane in their side for a long time. And then ultimately what happens is some of the gods will just want to be done with this thing, right? And get rid of it as they initially tried. But others will be like, well, we're responsible for this. We created it. It's not its fault. We made the problem. So then there could be this dynamic within the the realm of the gods where they're in disagreement on what should be done about it. And initially his approach was, here, I have a solution to help you. And
I've got a solution for your dragon problem.
Yeah, this is going to fix it all. And knowing that, it was going to stress the fabric of reality by creating all these demiplanes. And what would happen was, that would allow chaos to seep back into the realms.
Could he be well, I mean, I know we don't want to define it too much, but I almost feel like it could be like that sort of Cthulhu madness sort of thing.
Yeah, an outsider. Like, it could definitely be like the outsider.
Like
not
the thing.
And strange.
Well, I mean, but strange in a different sort of way, like a different level of strange.
What if he's all like tentacly and strange inside his head?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, so aesthetically it could be whatever, but it could be another thing that like makes pacts with warlocks and like.
Oh, absolutely, and not only that too. Like maybe they think they banished the chaos, but this thing is a direct conduit to the chaos.
Yeah.
But when we say chaos, right, what we're really saying is far realm. So when I say tentacly, but not on the outside, on the inside, I mean by on the inside.
Well, it's like where you put all your nuclear waste as far away as possible in the far realm. So all the chaos went there.
So it's like a living conduit for the far realm, and he wants to, as he grows stronger and more powerful, the more of the far realm he's able to allow back into this this world.
Yeah, he could almost be made out of like, like cosmic dust and space stuff. Like on the outside, like this sort of shifting, shimmering. I'm thinking back kind of like the
sparkly Sandman.
Kind of looks like eternity.
Yeah. Well, or Sparkly Sandman's good too. I was kind of thinking about like the Star Pact Warlock from fourth edition, like which was that thing, the Far Realm thing again. But like this sort of like, like again, not from around here.
Let's go. Let's just say it, man. Let's just say Far Realm and Cthulhu.
Yeah.
But now, what I was not thinking with him was making him. I feel like Cthulhu is extremely chaotic evil, but I haven't read a lot of H.P.
Well,
Lovecraft.
I'm not saying he is Cthulhu.
Yeah.
But he would be like he's a conduit to like those great old one type beings. Like he wants them to come back. It's not
where I was going.
Well, I'm not saying it's a good idea.
Could this deity almost also kind of like, though super brilliant, also be kind of like this lost child? Like because it's new to the world.
Like it doesn't understand what it's doing.
Right, exactly. Like, because it's really chaotic. Like it doesn't really do things out of malice. It just feels like the natural state was primordial chaos, and it just wants to return everything back to the natural state. That's all. This is the way it was. It feels like an innate impulse. Yeah, it feels an innate impulse to bring things back to the natural state of the world. Sort of thing.
Well, it depends if we have. I think one of the issues is, was it all chaos, or was the gods created more order and just said, well, we're getting rid of all this stuff.
Well,
all this junk lying around, it's going in the closet.
I think that's kind of what they did, and that's it, right? That's the thing. They put it in the closet, and they thought they got rid of it. They swept it under the rug. We locked the door. You never see it again. It's not there, clearly. But then, like, it burst out and said, "Hey, I'm here. Happy birthday." Yeah. Or it could totally be like the episode of The Twilight Zone when that kid Timmy is with his family and the dude shows up. Or is it the chick? I forget.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it was both. No? You know what I'm talking about? This classic episode of The Twilight Zone.
I feel like I've seen it before.
I do want to rewatch all the Twilight Zone, but that's a totally unrelated thing.
But anyway.
So it still needs a name.
Yeah,
I was thinking like The Stranger or
Far Traveler.
Yeah. Well,
Eberron uses Traveler.
Yeah.
Stranger's a good one. Yeah, I feel like it'd be like one of those deities that has like a lot of different names.
Right, different sort of
aspects. And like maybe like it's one of those deities that like like I think feel like commoners would pay tribute to, kind of out of superstition and fear.
Yeah, like the evil eye sort of thing.
Yeah. So
that's
it's
a good
like
point.
So with the name, it'd kind of be something like that. Like I don't think it'd be like I don't think it'd be like a regular name either. So like like a traveler, like a stranger.
Too bad Song of Ice and Fire has the stranger. I don't know.
Oh, there is.
Oh yeah.
It's either that or play the name game. That's kind of like what you always have issues with.
Where's the dice at? Where's Pete?
Yeah.
It's like, do we do the name game, or do we say, hey, somewhere
let me have
in
this
the
one. I'll come up with something that's barely pronounceable.
Somewhere in sci-fi fantasy
Field.
Wanderer or something.
There's a name.
The Outcast.
Of course.
What about the Outcast?
I like Outcast.
That's a rapper.
I like Wanderer. That's good.
Yeah, see, I see Wanderer as very different. I see Wanderer as someone who's like back to third edition, someone who does travel.
I'm almost looking for something.
Oh, he's traveled.
I'm almost looking for something that like feels like a more interesting word for like lost. Yeah. Something about like lost or something like that. Like
So Nate, you're the word guy.
I mean, we can
I'll think about it.
We can just look at the thesaurus and come up with something that's
so I'm gonna write down Wanderer, Lost,
something Wanderer, Marooned, like different.
Outcast, Abandoned,
Astray, something like that.
So I want to write down
If there's
stranger,
a word that means to lead astray, that would be good.
Traveler. I don't know. What do you guys think? You got any ideas for us?
Yeah.
You sit there not saying a word. Help us out.
Yeah.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
So we can go back to that one. So I
Yeah.
got some ideas.
Yeah, that was interesting. I like that.
This is a good set so far.
All right. So
Do we have any terrible, chaotic, evil?
What's the deal with the demon thing? Is that a name, or do you not want to reveal anything for the? Because it
well,
sounds like it's a deity of some sort, some stripe.
I have no problem, revealing a little bit of this. He's a aspiring demon lord by trying to gain more power and influence on, for lack of a better word, the prime material. He's hoping to be able to lock in, his own domain, in the hells, thus giving him the actual.
Well, so he's looking for a good
Demon Lord.
subprime mortgage on
Let's
Lair
just
of the Hell.
jump him
Yeah,
up
not
to
too
a
many souls
lesser
up front.
Demon Lord.
Yeah.
Low soul down payment.
So, but you know what? I see him as being a servant to somebody. Of like that Cord or Blood God or what was the Blood God? Is that from Warhammer?
Core something.
Yeah.
Karn something or other.
Khorne.
Corn, is that? Yeah.
But I definitely see like a blood, some kind of blood god.
That would completely fit.
So
I mean,
blood,
it's-
but it would be blood, slaughter. Well, evil falls in there.
Death.
Yeah, I feel like with world buildings and Pantheon and things like that, you can either go for like a very light, streamlined sort of Pantheon where you keep it very limited, or you have a god of absolutely everything. This feels like a world that's going to have a god of everything.
I like the everything route. I think it's
The god of toast, the god of butter.
Yeah, as we go along, new ones pop up.
Yeah. So,
But I like that route, and then what happens is you have a lot of weak gods.
yeah.
Yeah, they're not Zeus and they're not Odin's.
You tend to have your layers.
The god of layers.
When we did our last campaign world, we had like our principal 3, and then there were like 9 in the next tier, and then everybody else.
Yeah. Well, this time I'm feeling less ordered this time.
That's fine. I mean, I'm just it's basically
Less hierarchy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I think basically we can go with it's this group and then a whole bunch of lesser, things, people, whatever.
Well, I mean, we're going to need to fill. I mean, there's not much in the actual goodly religions here. So
They're less fun, less
we
fun.
definitely need to put some people out there.
We need our Paylor and this and that.
Yeah, we need something that's
What gods are in the Church of the Light Pantheon?
It's pretty vacant in there.
They got a shallow bench right now.
I'm like it doesn't matter how much flair and what name you put there. There's going to be a god of of good justice and like
The American way.
It's
Patrius. Yeah. America.
So I mean all that
the
is
dryad
really
of apple pie.
it's really just coming up with a name and a holy symbol and sticking.
Well,
those
sometimes it's
taglines.
nice to come up with an interesting spin on things. too.
Yeah, and religions and stuff. Like you look at Everon, what they did with the Silver Flame, like that's
It's
interesting.
a corrupted, lawful good deity. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the potential of having like some deity dragons, perhaps.
Yes.
Well, I think they would fall into the lessers.
Well, yeah.
Have any of you read Wheel of Time? I just started listening to the audiobooks.
I'm up to. I read up to like book 9 and
Okay,
quit.
did the Church of the Light? Those guys seem like total jerks.
I don't remember.
The Children of the Light or whatever.
Yeah, they were.
Oh yeah, they were complete jerks,
Yeah.
dude.
Did they
were,
have a deity associated with them,
they
or
were-
did they just make this stuff up? And
They
we're just
were
gonna
like
force our
they
will
were
on
like
you?
inquisitors,
Okay,
almost right. They're very heavy-handed, Justicar-ish.
Okay, just
From what I remember.
okay, I was wondering if there was somebody they worship, like some kind of pantheon they worship that.
I don't
they're like,
remember, dude.
We decided to go extreme.
I quit. I quit that book series so many years ago. It's not even funny.
Well, I'm listening to the audiobook. It's
Robert
really
Jordan
easy.
was still alive.
It's really easy to not quit it. And Brandon Sanderson is finished that series, or he finished that series, the last 3 books. So
I couldn't get through book 1, and by all accounts, book 10 is just an utter waste of time. So,
Audiobook, baby.
well, I mean, if I remember correctly from what people who have been avid fans of the series, Book 10 is, hey, whatever happened at the end of Book 9, here's how the rest of the world reacted. An entire book that has nothing to do with the main characters, just reactions.
Well, you also really couldn't get into Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire because of that, because there was too many characters and things going on all over
Except
the place.
for there's lots of cool, interesting character building things. And for me, like, I got, I don't know, like 30, 60 pages in Wheel of Time. I was just like, and it goes downhill from this. I don't know. I gave that right back to, I think I borrowed it from you, Ted, maybe.
It's possible.
But yeah.
I read the first book of Game of Thrones.
Okay. I'm sorry we got off topic. I just kind of wanted
The
to
Nerdarchy
know,
book review.
Yeah,
are we
part
going to
two.
have some kind of like inquisitorial style people in there, or is it going to be like actually really good Justice
we could do like I always like those kinds because they're really dicks, and
I like taking like good ideals and like pushing them to such an extreme that it's like a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool.
Well, and then the other thing is based on that too. Are we going to have some things that are religions and not necessarily deities?
Well, a cult, yeah, you can always have a cult.
Well, no. There's a difference. Cults, tend to be socially unacceptable, but you can have a religion.
Well, except for no, because like with cults, it's just a smaller sect of things. But like when you have hundreds and hundreds of gods, everything's a cult because it's not like you have it's not like you have Islam and Christianity. You have
but you could worship an ideal.
So you're
An
talking
ideal can
about
be based on a
a
religion.
cultural kind of like this whole region has this particular faith basis.
So let's say
which might involve characteristics like washing your hands before you do anything.
A perfect
or,
example is the followers of the Silver Flame. There isn't like a deity per se for that. It's just a concept.
well, it's a presence. Like the flame is a thing. Like it's imbued with a sentience.
It is sort of like a sentience that doesn't really talk to them except for like one person. It's weird. It's not like
Well, it's like the Pope.
it's kind of
like
it's not
like
like
they
the
talk
divine thing.
Like it's kind of
So
papacy.
So let's what about this? A group that
Did I offend you?
No, it was just kind of like
the
apples.
Pope is supposed to be.
They're kind of like swordfish.
Well, but isn't the whole idea of the papacy is that like God
you guys want to have another conversation?
Isn't the God speaks directly to the Pope? Isn't that the papacy? Like he interprets.
No, he speaks to the hat, and then the hat speaks to the.
It's
Pope.
the sorting hat. All
Yeah,
right.
he's got a sorting hat. That's really what it,
Well, I mean, it's an elaborate hat. It's got to do something. It's got to do something interesting.
So
Yeah,
do we have
so-
a religion based off a sorting hat?
Well,
Anybody else for that?
I don't know about that, but I was thinking would be kind of interesting, unless you have something that's.
I was
burning in your
I
eyes.
was going to say I would like an organization that really sticks to like the letter of the law, like to an obsession, and it doesn't matter whether it's good, whether it's bad. It's like ultimately lawful.
Judge
And-
Dredd. Well,
Yeah,
and to that end, I was thinking about something that's kind of along that lines. This idea of these kind of Justicar guys that wear these very plain, well, or maybe they could have some scroll work on them, but like silver masks with no like humanistic features. It's just a mask with like eye openings and maybe like nose holes so they can breathe easily or whatever. And like they're the embodiment of the law. And like maybe there's a thing where they have a thing against lycanthropes because this whole silver thing. But yeah, just kind of like these kind of like people that strip themselves of humanities or features or emotion and like live to be like a gleaming example of the law. Of justice without mercy sort of idea. Yeah, kind of thing. Right?
But would that be an organization or a religion?
I think it should be
an
a
organization.
I
that
think it could
nobody
be,
likes.
Well, I mean, it could maybe be both. I mean, if we come up with a patron deity that they revere.
No, I see it as an organization.
Well, here's the thing. Like,
I
there's
don't-
so many times that you can have a splinter cell
What-
of religion.
So what if they act like a religion, but there is no deity attached? They don't even
It could be, or it could be a
They're
splinter.
fanatics about.
They
this.
draw,
Yeah.
they draw, if you're talking, divine casting, they literally draw
from
their
the
power of the idea.
Well, I mean, that could be a thing, but also too. So there was like a schism in the Church of the Silver Flame in Eberron,
Mhm.
and there was like they had different names for the different branches, and so the ones that like were like like basically killing the lycanthropes, like they were their own things. So you could have like a goodly deity of justice, but maybe that deity like recognizes mercy, but then you have this splinter cell that like somehow still manages to draw power from that deity, but they like the ideals of it almost get corrupted with how extreme they tend to get. Like you can almost get like a sadist, lawful evil character that follows it because he enjoys killing.
Right.
Punishing the wicked.
Well, what I was going to
lawbreakers.
say, like,
Yeah.
if it's an organization, organizations have to draw their power from someplace or be sanctioned in some way, like by a kingdom or they've become so powerful that they've sanctioned themselves, so to speak.
They
Well, I mean,
they really
dude-
draw power from the trickster.
Well,
He's convinced them that he's actually some kind
I
of
would-
deity
I
of
would
law and
say-
justice.
I would say that they've become powerful through numbers and their own justification.
dude, you take
And-
spoils of the people that they bring to justice, really.
And they
It's like
I could definitely see like something like that controlling a nation.
well, it's like the way ISIS takes the spoils of war, like oil fields, this and that. Like it's the same
Yeah.
thing. If they overrun an area, they take all the resources,
Right.
and all of a sudden you have like priceless works of art, oil, weapons, and artillery. Like so
Absolutely.
they kind of as an army force or whatever.
so their actual divine casting would come from the idea and the ideals that they've set up, and they've gotten their power through whoever they bring to justice. Oh well, by committing this crime you have you are divulged of your being, and off you go. All your stuff's ours now.
What if at some point, some place in time, this some kind of magical construct was formed that when they distribute justice, and their justice is harsh, so a lot of penalties are death. That when they depart the guilty from this world, that their forces are basically sent to this place or this thing, and then it's kind of recycled back into them as empowering them as divine agents of that force, that ideal. So in essence, they created their own deity, which isn't really a deity. It's more like a battery of souls.
But I mean,
some
it
kind of
could
weird
be-
cosmic vending machine.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Well, basically, like ideas have power in a world where, like, you get in the metaphysical sort of things. So, I mean, this soul battery could eventually be like a life essence or this or that. A construct of their belief. Not in the golem sort of way, but like as in the like.
Yeah, it takes on its own presence.
Yeah.
But is it aware or not aware? Like it could be either. It could be not aware.
Well,
but it could awaken at some point, which could create all kinds of strangeness.
it could be a thing. Like somebody with severe autism that can't like understand like it doesn't understand emotion, like just super like goes about its business. Like so, it's almost mechanical in that way.
Well, because that's how it was created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps
I would
it has
would have
like
to
an
be that.
unconscious mind kind of presence in that sense of it's not necessarily conscious of decisions and things that occur, but it's
almost like a
it does
computer.
it does have a presence.
It's like a computer executing program.
Well,
thing.
that
Yeah,
one
in a way.
we should table, and
Yeah.
and we should really think about whether we want it to actually be awakened or not. And leave it in a dormant state, because if it's not awakened and it's in a dormant state, later on it could really be some interesting hooks on how it could change and really shake up the world and that specific organization. And if that organization is actually tied to a nation, it could create something there.
Right. Well, and then you get conflict of, again, splits in the church can be causes of mass conflict. So
So I think part of the job of world building, in my opinion, is leaving open loops.
well, you have
Yes.
to, and you have to set up places for tension and conflict. Like that's really you have to, because if everything functioned perfectly, there's no reason to adventure. Like there's no problems to solve. Like so.
So I like the idea, especially if we're running multiple DMs in the same place, of at certain points just leaving open loops for people to kind of fiddle with.
Unless you don't like what people did, and then you can retcon it, then it never happened. Yeah.
No. Then you go back to the open loop and you fiddle the other way.
Yeah. Right.
It becomes a tug of war between DMs. It's like it then becomes like a divine struggle.
Battle of wills is between two gods because you want to elect yourself.
Yeah. And then what is the real reality of the fantasy?
Hey, what about
what is the reality of the fantasy?
Sort of getting back to like the whole thing of like, I don't know, like I'm doing a thing with like tools, a deity that like, you know, a weaver of tapestries that like become reality, like a weaver of fates, but like he or she literally like is weaving things.
Ooh, let's do a spider.
Well, it was just. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but like, you know, like somebody like with knitting needles, or like a machine that's like, you know, weaving the fates sort of thing.
Like a spider with web.
Oh, so you're talking about like this lawful order machine, basically, like.
Well, I mean,
no, or like a seer, you know,
yeah,
or like the fates.
Kind of think
is it
thread
the Fates or the
weaves
Furies?
have been
way too
kind of overplayed.
Fates.
I don't want
I think so.
Yeah.
Tapestry.
The loom's been done a lot.
Yeah.
Loom, I don't know. I was getting back to my thing of like using tools for stuff, like for deity inspiration.
Yeah. Why can't it be a dude chiseling on the wall?
In whatever dimension he is in, we look like a relief on a stone wall.
Oh yeah, dude, an endless wall that was just etchings all along, and this guy just keeps etching along and never stops.
Like a timeline.
Click, click, click. You know.
That to me speaks Dwarven.
Chisels.
Maybe.
Oh yeah.
So we haven't discussed Dwarven Pantheon. Haven't discussed.
That'd be very dwarvish.
Haven't discussed.
That's interesting because it does take it into a different thing. And you know what we could do? Well, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but that almost leaves open, like, if we wanted to give our dwarves a bit more of a supposed to like the stereotypical Celtic Germanic, you know, reliefs and stuff like that. Make me think of like, you know, Near Eastern, Egypt, that kind of thing.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna roll the dice here. I'm gonna take a page from our Ulthgania religions. You know, whatever we want to call this person. The dwarves see him as a dwarf, and he's, you know, hammering in the wall. The humans see him or her as you know, a weaver of tapestry, and the elves see him scrolling on a endless scroll.
The 3-for-1 deal.
Yes.
Well, you know, so again, like, I don't know if we need to do the pantheon for every race. I mean, we can, but I don't know if we need to. If we do, because if we're just going to do a shit ton of deities, and like, you know, the different races kind of gravitate towards different ones, you know, that will probably happen.
Well, and then also too, like, it's basically people only see like the avatar of this god. Like, really, they appear as however. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz, like where like in the original story.
Wasn't it Dragonlance? The dude that just keeps writing
the
history as it happens. Right. Like, wasn't he actually Gilius or a neutral deity?
As to something,
I think
it was
you're
very.
talking about the wrong group here.
It was very.
My wife would know more.
Right, it was very like Roman as to something or other.
Yeah, there was actually a physical representation on the prime material, and they always kept referring to him, and he would be in the stories or whatever.
He would usually lead into the beginning of chapters. I feel like.
Yeah, but it wasn't until later that I think it was revealed that he was actually the neutral god.
Right. So you could just do a thing where like when he appears to people, they see him. You know, like the Wizard of Oz, like he appeared to different things as each one. You know, to the Dorothy, the lion, and this and that. It's like they're deities. They can appear. You know, whatever would put people at ease or be most terrifying in some cases. You know.
So you know, I'm gonna let you discuss your that. You know, I'm always fond of the monstrous races. So I would like our kind of war deity, you know, not just skill at arms, but the one that's about war to be something monstrous.
Well, we have the one aspect of the Etten giant thing.
Well, yeah, you said he was just evil and giants. I didn't know.
Well, I mean, war
he
could easily be.
Giant.
He's an evil giant, and giants usually like to wage war and mess things up. Like that's. And they both could be for war, but one is like war for like the sake of, and one's for for purpose, for the right reasons, sort of thing, kind of deal.
Well, I mean Ted, that might go in with that with our blood, slaughter, evil, death god.
Absolutely.
That is kind of loosely. I mean, and obviously that's not defined yet. We have this lesser demon lord that's promoting that god's agenda on our world, and the humanoids are already following. They're actually following his lackey, for lack of a better word. So the appearance isn't all that relevant because it can be whatever we want it to be. But I definitely see a god like that wanting to appear fearsome. Maybe looking like some great beast dripping of blood. I almost I almost picture basically the devil from Legend, but only
covered in blood,
slick and covered in blood. Yeah,
Tim Curry slathered in blood.
Yeah. Now that's hot.
That's right. Interacting with Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2.
Oh my God,
that mashup needs to happen.
Legend Home Alone mashup.
Legend Alone 2.
So we got some stuff to work with. We got to actually, we got enough stuff to work with that if we just leave it alone right now,
they'll do the rest.
They'll comment on the stuff and give us some ideas. There you go.
So I'm going to call it out there. We got this, Quinthel, Madam of Mysteries and Magic, and she needs a holy symbol. Anybody got any suggestions?
No.
We're not talking about you guys. We're talking
Not
about you
a
guys.
question mark.
Right. It's the Riddler.
Wait, well,
she's dressed in
or
green.
something like a puzzle, like pieces of a puzzle type of thing. Could just be a puzzle piece. I wonder how old puzzles are. I'm gonna have to research that.
I don't know.
Basically, like, who had the idea of I have this picture all intact. Now I'm gonna take it apart.
As soon as we put this video up, someone's gonna tell you how old they are.
Yeah,
they always answer our questions.
Well, isn't that what our fans are for?
Or the internet. Like,
it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. So I think that's enough for now. It's a start. We can take a look at this, revisit it again next week. Absolutely. Yeah. Unless we go back to high concept next week, or if we go into another direction, who knows?
Yeah. Maybe do
both. This was fitting because we were talking about clerics earlier, and hopefully the DMG will drop, so we'll have some more stuff to the domains.
Yeah, so
far. We need more domains. You can't.
We need more magic items.
Yeah. Well, we don't even give them out. Why would we need?
I gave out 2 magic items last night. The Minotaur's axe. I let the polearm guy wield it as a halberd.
Nice.
And I gave out a +1 ring of protection.
For a third level party.
There's
a one-shot game that they might get to play in 3 months or so.
You guys who are playing all the time, you're not getting nothing.
Yeah.
6th level, that's when you get your +1 items.
Tier. Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Yeah, so I guess with that, guys, you comment, like, subscribe, share.
Check us out on nerdarchy.com.
On Facebook, we're Nerdarchy there. Twitter, Instagram,
Reddit,
and newly formed Reddit.
Yeah, the newly formed Reddit.
That's right. So if you're there, you can meet us there and hang out too.
So with that, my friends, until next time,
stay nerdy.